CTTB. Music Podcast.
Dum, dum, dum. It's Christmas time. There's no need to be afraid.
There is.
Well, there is. If I do the line of that song, yeah, absolutely. Also,
It's fear.
we don't have to pray.
Fear everywhere.
Yeah. Also, probably have to pay him some money. Like a cover version. It's like no, that was parody. Vanessa.
Parody.
So it's Christmas time. So therefore we are reviewing 4 albums that are very un-Christmassy.
It's how we're feeling. It's how we're feeling this year.
It is. And to be fair, it's Christmas. So as you know, basically you just need 2 albums at Christmas. You need the Mike and Bublé one released for the umpteenth time now with obviously the one extra track on it to make you buy it again, or to download it again, or to stream it again, and a very Kacey Christmas. So you got both of those. Got both of those in your household. You've pretty much got it covered, frankly.
You got it sorted.
Yep. So because that's already in the bag,
Bublé and Kacey are doing the business.
Yeah, indeed. We've decided to catch up on a couple of albums 4 albums that we failed to review earlier on in the year that have been garnering good reviews. Hello, small child. Well, not so small child, in fact. Thumbs up from small child, yes.
Small thumbs up. Excellent.
What? Why are you trying to do sign language? We are recording.
Oh.
Yeah. So, look.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, yes. We just started recording the second podcast, yes. Because we finished the first podcast, so now we're recording the second podcast. This is comedy gold for all those people that are tuning into this Christmas podcast, kind of going,
quality content for Christmas. This.
Why don't they edit this out? Again, it takes too much time.
No, don't leave it in.
Right. Bye. Well, the same, different people than we were talking about earlier on. Well, I'll tell you, if you say that, we're going to talk about Little Sims. Sometimes I might be introvert. Olivia Ridrigo sour, dry cleaning new long leg, and low, hey what? Thanks for playing.
Excellent.
So we start, in fact, with South East London.
Brilliant.
And the 4th album from Little Sims. Sometimes
Indeed.
I might be introvert. Which is made with her usual producer and a new friend of ours from last year, Inflow, who is in Salt.
Oh, Salt!
Because remember, she was on one of the Salt albums. I can't remember which particular one it was now. 9.
Indeed.
Yeah. Anyway, Pete. Now I've set you up.
Now you've set me up. You set me up brilliantly there because I've momentarily lost all my notes because I'm reading them on a phone and they've disappeared. But what you just said there with regards to the Salt connection also makes sense.
Very much so. It has that. It's an album that immediately has that classic soul Bond film orchestration vibe.
Crosses many genres. Here we go. I've got my notes, and in such in a way that it's experimental. It's also personal, and because it does move from place to place, but it doesn't just do it in a random way. It's done in a so very carefully constructed, genius way. It's pieced together perfectly in terms of the way it does move. But from an album that sort of has the title "Sometimes I Might Be the Introvert," it's certainly not an introverted album. In fact, let's get right into, some of the things we were talking about on the last podcast around sort of self-esteem and around, views of one's own space in the universe. Lots of politics, international and very local. What it means to be Black, what it means to be a woman in 2021. What it means to sort of be in a relationship, out of a relationship, a victim of violence, whilst crossing over, the sweet soul of woman, the sort of mellower grooves of things like I See You, Rolling Stone, which is grime.
Yeah.
Verging on trap, I think.
If you say so, but if you say so.
Indeed, I do. And then jumps into something like Protect My Energy, which is pure 80s. But it's done in such a way that it just flows. And one of the things I also liked, so a few tracks I've mentioned, one of the things I also liked was the occasional interlude from the... is she meant to be a psychotherapist or subconscious or something? Narrator.
Oh well, no, because that's the woman from The Crown. Emma, whatever her name is, being Princess Di.
Oh. Right. Well, you've thrown me there. I wanted to say Mary Poppins, but no, we'll go with Princess Di. And no, that's just brilliant as well. And particularly the rapper who came for tea. It sounds like something out of a Disney film. It really does. It's just brilliant. I think it's just the way it's all thrown together, but thrown together in a way that is just genius. Very much like this album.
Sorry. In the background, I just hear the fact that they can't find the remote control in the house. Trauma.
Trauma.
Yeah. It's probably fallen down the gap between the two cushions. Anyhow, I agree. What I liked about this album, and why I think it's easy to go with the flow of this album, is because it works both musically as well as vocally. And as I said, the fact that her comfort of working together with Inflow, who she's worked with on the previous albums, I think kind of helps that. And there's certainly stuff on the last album that I liked for similar reasons. But musically, it's brilliant. Her words and the music. What I like is that the words and the music aren't fighting one another to try and be on top of one another. So it's there's no juxtaposing of stuff just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Which often in a lot of albums in this genre that we've reviewed can make it a bit of chore, at least for me, listening, because you're just thinking, just why are you trying to just pile on everything? Sometimes less is more. The lyrics, as you say, cover topics as you'd expect: race, family, being a woman, death, violence, so on. I Love You, I Hate You is a really fascinating track about her estranged father. So it's full of bitterness, anger, love, but ultimately forgiveness as well, and understanding of we're all flawed people, kind of thing. Misunderstood was the latter part of the album looks at a similar relationship with her sister, strained relationship with her sister. Little Q, she takes on the persona of her cousin who was stabbed, and again goes back into that whole knife crime thing, which has cropped up a lot certainly in artists that we've listened to from London over the last few years. I quite like there's obviously a bit of synth pop on Protect My Energy, which is like thinking, Okay, wow, interesting. And as you say, the rapper that came to tea is pure stage musical. Stephen Sondheim, who we've just lost, would be more than proud of this, frankly. I wasn't so sure about the kind of the Princess Di talky bits. Kind of annoyed me a bit. That was the only bit that I was thinking, could have done without this. But that aside, really, really strong album that I will be listening to again. I've only listened to it a couple of times so far. And I can see why it has been featuring highly on end of year lists. Moving on, staying with the ladies, we move on to 18-year-old singer-actress Olivia Rodrigo and her debut album Sour. And certainly a young lady who's been one of the artists of the year. I mean, her debut single earlier on the year, Driver's License, topped the charts in a whole lot of countries, making it and her a almost instant worldwide smash and star. It was interesting because I have to say, when Driver's License came out and I heard it, I really liked it, but didn't occur to me at the time, or since until we did this podcast, to seeking out anything else from her at all. But having listened to the full album again, I can see why this has been both a commercial and critical success. It's a really enjoyable pop record. Yeah. Rattles through a whole bunch of 3-minute slices of teenage life, veering between Lana Del Rey, No Doubt, Alanis, Ingrid Michaelson, and Taylor Swift musically. Indeed, a couple of the songs, One Step Forward, Three Steps Back, and Deja Vu, interpolate New Year's Day and Cruel Summer by Swift. Although, bizarrely for me, the song where she actually sounds the most like Taylor Swift is on the song Good For You, which interpolates Paramore's Misery Business, which is a really good song, actually. I really like that. I actually quite like Deja Vu as well. And clearly, lyrically, it's about young love and breakups and stuff like that. But again, she wrote most of this when she was 16, 17, and she's singing it to a teenage audience, or what she hopes is primarily going to be a teenage audience that are buying the records, who I'm sure will identify with exactly what she's saying. Really liked Traitor near the start of the album, and there's a song called Enough For You as well, which I think is in the middle, which I quite liked. And overall, there's definitely enough here to make me interested in what Olivia Rodrigo is going to do in the future. An impressive pop debut, I'd say.
I agree. I am fortunate, or should that be unfortunate, to be familiar with some of her previous oeuvre, namely High School Musical, the series.
Oh, of course, yes.
It seems to be playing permanently in our house at the moment. And I mean that by no disrespect to her or the cast. It just always seems to be on. And you should check it out. It's a bit meta. But so this is otherwise than expected. But she's for someone so young, she's bloody talented. There are clearly great things to come, and this is honest, edgy pop music. And you've cited a whole list of artists there. I would go as far as to say I think Kacey's an influence as well.
No, I think she has mentioned Kacey as Kacey and Taylor Swift as being two of her big.
Yeah, I got some of that, and I'd say even sort of earlier Halsey as well. Obviously, pre 9 Inch Nails, but I think there's a correlation or a connection there too. No, it's really good stuff. It's pop music. It's for the kids. It's not for me. But I agree with everything you said there in terms of your review. Brutal and Traitor were, again, two of my favourite tracks as well.
Yes. Indeed. So changing tact somewhat, we go to the debut album by think I feel it's in the London-based band. I know the singer is definitely from London. Dry Cleaning. Album produced by John Parrish, who long time worker with PJ Harvey.
Yeah.
The album is called The New Long Leg, and is what happens when a band in search of a singer get together with a singer who's not a singer, who's more of a kind of artiste, shall we say. Florence Shaw. We kind of sort of mentioned this in the last podcast. So, Pete, Dry Cleaning, New Long Leg.
Spoken word post-punk.
Indeed.
It's each lyric tells a different story, and I think that's what keeps it interesting, because she has a very, in fact, for most of the album, very monosyllabic sort of style of delivery. But what's interesting is the lyrics are, that sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it really is just random thoughts, and she acknowledges that once or twice as well. And it feels she has that sort of, she has the eye of an artist. She's creating a picture, if you will, with words, just from the scraps that she has lying around. But it comes together so well. It's a little hard to adjust to at first as well, but
it is.
I had to obviously listen to the album a couple of times, because by track three, the first time, I should say, I'd kind of got a handle on it. And as I say, after repeated listening, you start to pick up all the different commentary, the quotes, the jokes, the little stories.
It's very playful.
Yeah, there's the quips in there. It's very entertaining and playful. I think we mentioned on the last podcast that sort of advisory listing style. The sort of spoken word, very English sort of style. It's very well done here. And a couple of the tracks I liked in particular, I think it's Leafy, which is moaning about how to spend spare time or not spend it.
Yes.
And just how boring modern life is indeed rubbish, particularly post a relationship or a heartbreak. It's just, I've got to clean the dishes now. It's that sort of thing, very sort of wry humour, observational stuff. And another track, Her Hippo, was just all out funny. I don't think it was meant to be, but or maybe it was meant to be. But again, it was sort of reflecting on a relationship, I think, or being in a relationship or something. It was just, very well done. Very well done. I also like the track John Wick, because it was just great.
Yeah.
I can't really describe the tracks. They're so difficult to sort of...
Well,
my broad overview.
God, what I was going to say is we're going to do the thing with the fact that why I think the record works. I guess it goes back to a couple of records we reviewed recently, and a bit like the Little Sims record. I don't think the record would work without the music. And the music is also just really, really, again, a bit kind of avant-garde, indie, folk, whatever. But it just seems to gel perfectly with her laconic delivery. And so musically, most of the songs are very, 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 very different, whilst keeping to a certain kind of genre thing. But it doesn't feel like you're hearing the same thing again and again, which you might do if it was just her doing spoken word delivery unaccompanied.
Yes.
But it is just very impactful, and just the kind of meter of the way of her delivery and in time with the music is, and as you say, it's just, some of it is just so funny. I mean, what's the track when she's talking about someone pissing up a leg at Sainsbury's or whatever?
Yeah.
Is that More Big Birds or something? It's just thinking, my God. The record is full of that kind of stuff. It's just really, really, really just very funny.
Yeah.
And addictive, because you do the first couple of tracks you're just thinking, am I really going to be able to do a whole album's worth of this? And you get to the whole the album's worth of it, and you're kind of going, I might listen to that again, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the last track is like, what, 7 or 8 minutes or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's one of those records that if you try to describe it to people and said, this is an album that's people are going to love and it's going to be one of the albums of the year according to end of year lists, you'd be going, say what? But yeah, I get it. Totally get it. I'm glad we're catching up with it.
Me too. It's a good. You're absolutely right. I think the music is as important in that sort of humour and delivery as the vocals are. Same for the Will Sims album. Absolutely.
Right, so we finish. Speaking of avant-garde, we spinish and finish.
It's finished.
Spinish. We're going Scottish. With the latest album from Low, who are Alan Sparhawk and Mimi Parker, formed in 1993. In fact, it's believed the term slowcore was specifically coined to describe Low's original musical output, and they're a band that I've kind of dipped into off and on over the last 20 years without really kind of going, yeah, like that or don't like that or whatever. But I did hear a couple of tracks off their last album, which came out a few years ago, called Double Negative, which did intrigue me because it was just sounded a bit off kilter and a bit bonkers. And they've kind of continued down that vein with this current record. So working again with producer BJ Burton, who is been known for his work with Bon Iver, Kanye, and Charlie XCX. In fact, he was one of the co-producers on How I'm Feeling Now, album that we liked last year.
Yeah.
And he's helped them explore the more kind of abrasive, shall we say, digital effects and sound manipulation that you can do. And whilst they started that on the album Double Negative, they got to this album and kind of thought, okay, they have a quote saying, okay, we've blown the doors off, found this new vocabulary, now what do we do with it? And the answer seems to be this, which an album, if you stick your headphones on, which I did, and turn the volume up quite loud, and the first track starts, you're kind of going, what the fuck? Basically, they've taken modern studio tricks that Kanye, Drake, and other people use, and basically turned them up to 11 and used them in a kind of indie folk context. And I have to say, unsurprisingly, I liked it. Highly processed guitars, providing choppy, distorted feedback. It kind of fell between My Bloody Valentine and actually the Bon Iver album that we reviewed a few years ago, the 22 Million album. And literally, I think I was 1 or 2 songs into this, and I was thinking, I bet Bowie would like this.
Yeah.
What I loved is just how kind of traditionally great. You can imagine just these songs could be kind of like literally acoustic guitar indie folk songs, and they've been turned into these kind of just like beasts.
Yes.
And what I liked is there's a couple of moments in the album where tracks merge into the other tracks. So the first track, White Horses, merges into I Can't Wait, with basically the end of White Horses being a kind of like a kind of low droning sound for literally about a minute, which then takes up as being the start of I Can't Wait. And similarly, in the middle of the album, you get something done similarly when there's a really heavy drone outro of the track Hey, which goes into Days Like These, which is one of the highlights of the album for me, which is just quite marvelous as we get there, kind of like joint vocals coming in and with some normal kind of sweet electric guitar before we still go full on distortion and noise. More goes full on My Bloody Valentine. And the album Close, The Price You Pay is just beautiful. This is the album that I would want to whack on at Christmas, just to wake up Granny and anybody else that was thinking of going to sleep. It's again another album that I'm glad I saw. This was one of the albums we'd missed, because I put it on and went, yes, God, I'm glad I haven't missed this record. This is great. Loved it.
I agree. It's that sort of parallel with Bowie again, and some of the sort of instrumental sort of post-industrial sort of soundtracks that we've had in recent years. I'm not going to name who, but long-time listeners know who. From the opening Distortion of White Horse, it's brilliant transition into the second track, and that sort of warm, as you say, pop-like. Well, I don't think you said pop-like, but you said indie-like.
I think pop-like is fair, actually. Yeah.
Across the top, it's very pop-like in terms of the delivery of the vocals. They're certainly very warm vocals, not like your sort of classic rock or industrial vocals, that's for sure. So there's enough going on to keep you interested, and then you do the occasional instrumental as well in between. So overall, there's a lot to keep you interested. It feels like the soundtrack to a really great live show, and it's sort of from the opening Distortion, which I mentioned, but through to the sort of bombastic, epic ending. There's a lot going on in this album as well. I also liked All Night because it's just epic.
Yeah.
I think Days Like These is the closest thing you get to a mainstream song.
Yes, I think that's fair.
And The Price You Pay is the sort of most industrial like. Yeah. No, I've really enjoyed this record.
So that's Christmas for you.
Those are your presents.
And actually, last podcast.
Nothing Christmassy.
Last podcast wasn't that hard to pick which one I would go. Yes, this is. If you had to listen to one record, this is the one you should do.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast much harder, because all 4 albums are equally worthy in different ways. Partly because they're all actually genuinely different genres. Whilst some of them touch on the other genres, they're all very much individual in that kind of sense.
Yeah.
It would be, I think for me, it would depend on what kind of mood I was in.
Yeah.
Although I'd probably, if pushed, I would probably have Little Sims fighting it out with Low. Maybe combining.
Maybe combine the two. Maybe they can collaborate.
Yes.
I'm in a similar sort of place. Props, of course, to dry cleaning. But at the start of the podcast, I'd have said Low. But at the end of the podcast, I'm sort of leaning more towards Little Sims.
Oh.
So there you go.
I'm fairly certain that both albums will be listened to again.
Yes.
Actually, probably all these albums will listen to me again before we do our end of year thing, which will be in January, obviously, because
yeah.
But as we said, we'll actually genuinely give these albums a chance to actually potentially earn places in our respective top 20s.
Indeed. A chance to breathe.
I suspect several or all of them will.
They're getting quite crowded, my top 20, I have to say.
Yeah. Who'd have thunk it?
But more on that next time.
Indeed. Until then, we wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
And see you in 2022.
And see you in 2022.
No, and see you in 2022.
Well, hopefully I will actually see you in 2022.
Pete, all I want to do
Goodbye.
Pete, all I want to do is see you.
Hey. Oh.